In this video, we will show you how to replace your door lock actuator on this Ford Ranger. This will be located inside of your door. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. Looking inside of the grab handle for the door, you're going to find that you have two Phillips head screws. Remove the pair, give them a close inspection, and set them aside. Use a plastic trim tool and remove this plastic trim panel. Make our way under here, just carefully start lifting up on this. Now behind that area, you will find that you have several wiring harnesses. To start disconnecting the wiring harnesses, you want to locate the locking tab, squeeze it in, dislodge the wiring harness from the unit. A quick inspection for corrosion and move along, doing the same to all others. Let's set this aside. Now with that switch panel out of the way, we can use our trim tool and start removing this entire panel. If you find you have a hard time making your way under there, you can use that trim tool. We'll just gently start prying this out of place. Just give that a quick inspection, set it aside. Now behind that area, you'll find three more Phillips head screws. One here holding the door panel, and there's two over here that are holding this bracket in place. Just give the bracket a quick inspection and we can set all this aside. Now let's make our way down to the far lower corner. Using our Phillips head, we'll remove this mounting screw as well. This screw will look considerably different than the others. Keep that in mind for the installation process. Take hold of the door panel. We're going to start lifting it up and out of here. We need to make sure that we have clearance over our door lock knob. Go ahead and set that panel aside. Behind the door panel, you should find that you have a plastic vapor barrier. Carefully take hold of the vapor barrier. You will find that you have butyl tape making its way across. Be careful not to get any of this on your clothing. We'll gently start pulling this away. We don't need to fully remove it, but we do need to be able to gain access inside of this area. Looking along the outside of the door, you're going to find that you have an 11mm bolt holding that window channel in place. Remove the bolt. Now we can take hold of the window channel and we'll start pulling it down just a little bit to dislodge it. Once we're in a position, you're going to find that you have an area that you have to remove a wiring harness from the bracket. For this, you can use a small prying device. I have a trim tool. You can also use a flat blade screwdriver if you need to. Let's get this out of here. Give that window channel a quick inspection. Make sure it doesn't look like it's rotted or damaged in any way. We'll set this aside temporarily. Now we have a clear view of our door lock actuator. You'll find that it is attached to the door latch. We're going to have to remove both of these as a unit. Let's start by disconnecting the wiring harnesses. You'll find two of them along the bottom here. To dislodge this electrical connector, you'll find you have a locking tab. I'll just use a small pick for this, pop it out of place. Now with that out of place, let's give it a quick check for corrosion. That looks good. Set that wiring harness aside. Move along to the next wire connector. For this one, we'll just squeeze on that locking tab and pull it out of place. A quick check for corrosion, of course. Now let's move up from this area. You're going to find that you have two metal rods. One of them is held in place with a locking plastic connector. Use a pick for this and remove the rod from the unit. Double check that plastic connector. We want to ensure that it is still in reusable condition. If you broke the ear off of it and it's not possible to lock anymore, you have to go ahead and replace that. Ours looks fine, so let's continue by removing the entire latch assembly. Now let's make our way up to where this rod connects to our lock unit. Now you could pry this rod out of the plastic connector, but it's very common to break that plastic connector, and it's very difficult to find a new one of those. To easily dislodge this, you'll find that you have a small clip along this backside here. You want to be careful not to lose it. To remove this, grab onto it with a pick and start sliding it out of position. Give the clip a quick inspection and set it aside. Let's get this off of here. Along this area of the door, you're going to find that you have 3 T27 Torx screws holding your door latch to the door. We'll start removing each of these screws, leaving one of them in just a couple threads. In here. Let's get this bolt off of there. Now we can start removing this entire unit from inside of the door. We'll have to bring it down nice and low so we can remove the door lock rod from in the upper portion of the door. Start pulling this out of here. You still have some wiring attached. Okay. At this point, we have a clear view of the door lock actuator. We can start separating it from the latch assembly. Now, if you were to look where the assembly connects onto the actuator, you're going to find a locking tab hidden inside of this area. Use a small pick or even a small screwdriver. Gently pry on that locking tab. Once you've done so, you can start separating the actuator from the latch assembly. While we start pulling it away, we'll pay attention in this area. You will find that you have an area of the actuator that slides into the latch assembly. Start pulling that out. There it is, friend. Let's clean and inspect the mounting area, and now we can prepare for installation of our brand new door lock actuator. Take this and put it in position, making sure that you align the mounting points and that area that slides through the door latch. Now, I'm not going to press too far. Once you're aligned, you do need to confirm that you are aligned along the backside here as well. Continue pressing it in. We'll listen for a click from that, give it a tug to make sure it's completely secure. We know for sure we're in this area as well, and now we can reinstall this in the door. While we bring this in position, let's pay attention to our door lock rod. We want to make sure that comes up through the corresponding hole while we continue putting the rest of this in its proper position as well. Now, once you feel as though you have it in the proper position, continue on with all 3 of your exterior mounting bolts. Once all 3 of them are started, go ahead and snug them up. Now let's have a look inside the door. It's time to reattach our lock rod to the lock cylinder. Carefully put that in place and reinstall your locking clip. Take hold of that, give it a wiggle, and make sure it's completely secured in place. Let's get that next rod in there. Slide that right into position. Press it in all the way to the latch. Make sure it's locked in with your black connector. Give it a little tug. We want to make sure that's completely secure. Now it's time to reconnect your electrical connectors. Starting with the black connector, we'll plug that in. Press it in, listen for a click, give it a little tug, make sure that's secure. Continue on to your gray connector next. Got a nice click, we'll give it a tug. Now let's resecure our cable here. Just have to twist this, make sure that we are secured. Now the next thing we'll do is quickly test its functionality. All we need to do is reconnect our door lock switch. Perfect. Let's disconnect that switch and we'll set that aside for now. Now we can reinstall our window channel. As we bring it in position, aligning our mounting bolt hole, we also need to pay attention up along the top. On the top of the window channel itself, you're going to find that you have a small hooked area. And if you were to look inside of the door, you'll find an area for this to slide up and into, holding it in place along the top. Align the lower mounting point, and then go ahead and tighten that bolt. Okay. Now when you go to put in your mounting bolts, you'll be able to see that there is an adjustment point here. It's typically a good idea to make sure that you have it in its original resting position. Commonly, you will be able to see a marked area from that washer. Let's make sure that's nice and tight. Let's have a quick look inside this area. You need to confirm that the wiring harness is not crossing in the path where your window will ride. Good. Now it's time to reinstall the vapor barrier. Go ahead and take that and put it back in its original position. Now we can continue on with our door panel. When we bring this in position, you need to come up nice and high. You'll find that you have the port for your door lock knob to come through, but on the door panel itself, it has a hooked area that comes down. That will slide into this groove across the top of the door. As we bring this over towards the door, we'll double check to make sure we have access to all of our wiring harnesses. There should be 3 of them. Let's get this into the slot here. I can see that coming up through. Press it up against the door. Wiring harnesses. Lock it down. Double check all the way around just to make sure that it's completely seated. Now that we're sure it's completely seated, we can start remounting each one of the screws. Let's get the bracket in place here. Let's get this mounting screw in here. Now it's time for our panel. When we put this in place, align each one of your mounting points here and press it into position. We'll also make sure that we have the wiring harnesses making their way through the proper holes. Now it's time to start reconnecting our switches here. Press them in, listen for a click. Take the switch panel and carefully put it in position. Let's lock it in. Install the 2 screws that go in your grab handle. Okay friends, we finished our installation. At this point, let's test the functionality one last time. Perfect. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.